Welcome, teachers. Today, we're going to dive into some really fascinating research from Dr. Sudendra S.G., all about unlocking the art of learning. Now, this is a powerful mental model you can teach your students and, probably start using for yourself, maybe even today.
So let's just kick things off with a pretty bold claim from the research. The single most valuable, most in-demand skill for the next 20 years? Well, it isn't coding and it's not data science. It's good old-fashioned problem solving.
It sounds almost too simple, doesn't it? But this really is the fundamental truth of how our modern economy works. People get paid to solve problems. It's not just about knowing a bunch of facts, it's about being able to apply them to new, tricky challenges. That's what makes a person truly valuable out there. And that right there raises a huge question for every single one of us in education. If this skill is so vital, so fundamentally important, are our current methods, the ones we rely on day in and day out, are they actually the best way to teach it? It's something we have to ask. We've all been there, right? A student gets stuck, and our first instinct, and theirs, is just to push harder. We fall right into this classic trap of believing that the solution to any tough problem is just more grit, more willpower, more intense focus. This is the advice we give our students, and it's what we tell ourselves, isn't it? Just concentrate harder. But the research is really clear on this. Relying only on intense focus, well, that's just a recipe for frustration and burnout. It's literally only half the story of how our brains work. Okay, so here's where it gets really interesting. The breakthrough, that moment of insight, it often doesn't come from focusing more. It comes from having the wisdom to just step away completely. Yeah, the path to the solution is often totally unexpected. You know this feeling. I know you do. You wrestle with a problem for hours, you're hitting a wall, you get absolutely nowhere. And then, maybe you're in the shower the next morning or on your drive to school, and bam, the aha moment just strikes. That isn't a fluke, it's not magic, it's your brain strategically switching on a second incredibly powerful system for solving problems. Dr. Sudendra S.G.'s material identifies these two totally distinct ways of thinking. And mastering the dance between them, that's the absolute key to effective learning and real problem solving. Think of it like having two different tools in your mental toolbox, a spotlight and a floodlight. So your focus mode is that powerful spotlight. It's intense, it's analytical, it zeroes in on the details and follows logical steps using things you already know. But your diffuse mode, that's the floodlight. It's relaxed, it's scanning the entire landscape, connecting ideas that seem totally unrelated, and seeing the big picture. That's where those novel, creative solutions come from. Now, this whole idea of switching between these two states of mind, it's not some new age fad, not at all. It's an ancient art form, really. And we can see it beautifully illustrated in stories we all know, like the Mahabharata, which are just packed with this kind of deep wisdom about how the human mind works. So let's think about that famous story of Dronacharya's archery test for his pupils. To prove his skill, the great archer Arjuna was asked to do something that required just absolute, unwavering precision. When his teacher, Dronacharya, asked him, "What do you see?" Arjuna replied, "I see only the eye of the bird." He blocked out everything else, the tree, the sky, even his brothers standing nearby. That, right there, is the focus mode in its purest form, shutting out all distractions to execute a known task perfectly. But later, on the massive battlefield of Kurukshetra, that same pinpoint focus wouldn't have been enough. To be a brilliant general, to actually win the war, Arjuna needed a different kind of sight. He needed the wisdom to see the entire battlefield, to anticipate what the enemy would do, to make creative, strategic moves. He needed the floodlight of the diffuse mode.
So here's the crucial takeaway. True problem-solving mastery, the kind that Arjuna showed, isn't about being great at just one thing. It's about the sophisticated skill of knowing when to use that intense, focused spotlight, and just as importantly, when to pull back, relax, and let that wise floodlight show you the whole picture. So the big question is, how do we bring this into our classrooms? Well, this is where all this theory becomes a really practical tool. You could even call it a new teaching superpower. You can actually teach this 4-step cycle directly to your students. First,
a focused sprint. Go hard on the problem for a set amount of time. Then, and this part is key, a deliberate rest. We have to teach them that taking a walk, listening to music, or even switching to a different subject isn't being lazy. It's a strategic move. Then, we teach them to pay attention to and welcome those aha moments that pop up during their break. And finally, you guide them back to the original problem so they can plug in that new insight. This is the huge shift in perspective we can give our students. That real, productive rest isn't the same as quitting. It is an active, essential part of how we solve difficult problems. The best learners aren't the ones who can just grind for hours on end. They're the ones who have mastered the art of shifting gears. So this is the real opportunity in front of us. It's a chance to go beyond just teaching subjects and to start teaching the art of learning itself. When you give your students the keys to their own minds, you're preparing them for a future that none of us can even predict. So the only real question left is the one right there on your screen.